We welcome you to the show.
Hi there, gorgeous souls, and welcome back to my channel. And if you are new here, I am Bob Spas, and in this channel, you may expect spirituality, self-development, quantum jumping, meditations, and so much more. Today, I want to say I am so grateful for YouTube because YouTube has given me the privilege to meet so many nice people like the guest I have today. He's a very special person. He redesigned his DNA. Oh my God, how do you do that? How do you do that? I'm also curious. So welcome to my show, Joey.
Hello, and thank you so much, Barbara, for having me. I'm excited to be on and look forward to sharing a little bit of my journey with your viewers, showing you exactly how I rewrote my DNA.
Joey is a very special soul. We share a lot of things. We have beliefs in common, like reincarnation or walking in the spiritual realm through your dreams. Joey, I have something to learn from you. How do you do that? Let's dive into it. I'm so curious about it, and my audience also.
My journey, I've learned basically through trial and error on how to create the reality we desire. It all comes, number one, from our wonderful imagination. If you follow Neville Goddard, if you read a lot of the books on reality creation, they talk heavily about imagination. But what I've realized, and I see a lot of people struggling in a lot of chat groups and stuff, is, oh, I'm imagining the end, living in the end, but nothing's happening. I'm still not seeing results because I'm trying to imagine the ending. It's a mixture of using your imagination coupled with your emotions. We have to invoke our emotions in such a massive way, and our emotions come from our past. Basically, everything we feel, everything we believe about ourselves and about who we are comes from our identity of our past. How do we know to evoke the energy of anger if we don't think of a time in our past that we were angry? How do we know how to feel joy and happiness if we don't evoke those feelings of a time in the past that we felt happy or joyful? Does that make sense?
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. It's not only imagination. You have to actually tune at the right vibration. If you don't tune that vibration, you can imagine as much as you like, it's not going to happen. That's the missing ingredient of the recipe, your vibration. That is really linked to your emotions. When you feel the emotion, you embody that. You have to feel as you already have that of what you want. Not too much, not too little. If you have all the ingredients of the recipe, let's say you want to make a cake, you put there the eggs, you put the milk, you put the moon, but you don't have the oven. What's going to happen? It's going to stink after a few days.
Right. It isn't going to bake, that's for sure.
You have to bake at the right temperature. If you put too much fire, you're going to burn it also. So you have to match the exact vibration. Your grandpa probably had those radio that you have to search in the dial with a button. It's exactly that.
I don't want to date myself, but I had a radio that you had to search with the dial too.
Joey, and I had a television that you have to.
I had a push button television with 13 channels, if I remember right.
You have to find
right. UHF versus VHF. Yeah.
I don't want to go into it. People will realize I'm 54. If you are making math in your mind, as we are recording this video this year, I'm 54 and a half.
Wow. You look amazing. I would never have guessed. That's insane.
Thank you.
I don't even want to say, but that's insane.
Go on and tell me about how do you redesign your DNA?
Based on the idea that we have to use emotions to trigger our imagination into creating that new reality, I learned how to do it last year, actually, in December of 2020. I went through the Date with Destiny program with Tony Robbins. It was there that I entered the event with one purpose in mind, and it was to eliminate this anger and this frustration that I had felt all my life that I didn't really know where it was stemming from. But I knew that I had this deep-seated anger that was holding me back from reaching my true potential, becoming my true, fulfilling my true purpose. So I go into this event, and after day one, I'm realizing, holy crap, everything that I've blamed myself for and I've been angry about in life was stemming from the fact that I was abandoned by my biological father at birth. And I didn't even put two and two together. Sure, I knew he played a factor in it, but it wasn't until I really dove deep and I was like, oh my gosh, I really am angry about the fact that he left me alone and abandoned and made me feel like I wasn't good enough and all these feelings about it. So after the first day, I realized this, and I wake up the second morning to write a letter to him. I wasn't ever going to send it, but it was like, I'm going to write a letter to try and heal myself from this wound that I just realized I had.
I can imagine that this had also a big role in your childhood, that you were feeling unworthy because you didn't have a father like the other kids at school, and that also attract to you situations that were not the best in the world.
I didn't have a father per se until I was 7. My mom always wants me to tell this, like, make sure you tell people that you had a great stepfather and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, of course, Mom, I had an amazing stepfather. I still do. That came into my life when I was 7 years old and has been such an amazing part of my life. And I'm so grateful and love him so much for it. But it was really that first 7 years prior to that, that I didn't realize shaped who I had become and who I was because of that sense of abandonment. In turn, it caused me to have depression. Through my life hasn't been easy, necessarily. I was abandoned. I was sexually abused as a child. I developed Tourette syndrome. So if you notice ticking or
yes, I know.
like
I know what it is. I know you have to make little noises or to do something. I know.
I got that when I was, it started to hit puberty. I started developing those tics and everything. So that was really frustrating and embarrassing. So that just compiled on to the shame and guilt and everything I already had. It basically turned me into following alcohol. I became an alcoholic, abusing drugs, abusing sex, anything I could do to kind of get my mind to fill the void and to get my mind off of the reality I thought I was living in and the story I believed was true, and it took me all the way up. I had tried in the past to commit suicide on multiple occasions. One time right before my 21st birthday, I woke up in the ICU and literally the doctors said 15 minutes longer and you were gone. And I'm like, everything has a purpose. Everything has a meaning. It took me a long time to figure out why I had to go through.
I'm really glad you didn't succeed in that attempt. I'm really glad because look what an amazing person you've became. And no one grows in a comfort zone. We have to get out of the comfort zone. We have to struggle, to learn, to evolve, to become the best version. Okay, then you are in the second day by Tony Robbins.
So all that I'm realizing all this pain, all this anger has really been misguided, has been directed at my biological father. So I go to write him a letter on the second day. I got one sentence in and just totally lost it. And I'm bawling, I'm crying like I'd never cried before for a straight hour. And I just couldn't even breathe. I'm like, what is wrong with me? And I'm just crying. And then eventually about an hour after it started, it just stopped. It was kind of like,
relief.
It's like I let it all out and this weight had been lifted off of me. And I'm like, I don't even need to write this letter now. I realized that everything I believed wasn't actually true. It's like I'd been blaming myself for something that this guy had no control over. Why am I telling myself I'm worthless and not worthy of his love? Who gives a shit? You know, he's just some guy. And why should that determine who my identity is? So it was really, I forgave him for everything. I forgave him for my misjudging, my putting all that on him. I forgave him in my mind, and that was really the start of how this process happened.
You guys that are watching this video, if you wish to forgive somebody and you don't know how, don't struggle with that. Just be willing to forgive and go there, willing to forgive with all your heart and your soul, and God will help you. God will help you. You just have to say, I really want to forgive. You don't have to think on how. It will be a relief to you, because hate and guilt and putting outside the responsibility of your own happiness is so disempowering. When you take the responsibility to you, when you take it to yourself, when you forgive the others for the wrongdoing, it gives you freedom. Joey, I'm thrilled with your story. Go on, go on.
We move on throughout the week and we get to day 5 of the event, and that's what's called Transformation Day. And that night we go through a past regression meditation. We're supposed to put ourselves into the mind of our earliest childhood memory. So I'm going back, and all of a sudden what flashes in front of me is an event I forgot all about. And it was me as a 5-year-old child, and my mom and I were headed down to Texas to see my biological father. You know, I can only imagine she was going down to try and win him back, right? And bring him home so that I could have a father and be normal like all of the other kids that I knew. I first were directed, put yourself into your body. What were you doing right before the event happened? So I go into that 5-year-old mind, and I'm excited, right? But I'm also really nervous. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, if he doesn't like me, if he doesn't see what an amazing child I am, son I am, he's not going to come home and he's not going to be my dad. So it shifted all of a sudden to, wow, what a ton of pressure I had put on myself for something I couldn't have controlled. I was 5 years old. I had no control over him. But in my mind, it was, am I worthy of his love? Am I good enough? What can I do to make sure he sees how worthy I am, how much I want to be loved? So I'm seeing all that. I'm feeling it. I'm experiencing it like I'm right there, and it's crazy. So then Tony says, put yourself in the mind of the other person that's there. So I dive into my mom's mind, and I start seeing through her eyes and feeling what she's feeling. And all of a sudden, I'm just hit with this overwhelming feeling of, she's so scared. She doesn't know where to go. She doesn't know she wants to give me a father, but she doesn't know what to do. This is like her last option. So she's down there and doing whatever it takes, even though this guy had crushed her, this guy had left her, she probably hated him, but she was willing to do whatever it took to give me a father. So she was there having this, arranging this meeting. And I just felt such compassion for her and love for her. And I started crying right there in that meditation, because I could see her intentions and why she was doing what she had to do, and the love where she came from behind it. So then at the end, Tony says, all right, if there's a third person, put yourself into that person's eyes. So I go into my father's eyes, and boom, instantly it's like, oh my God, he's terrified. He's like, doesn't know what, he doesn't want to be here. He's so uncomfortable. He ran all the way down to Texas to avoid having to be a father and a husband. So it's like, now we're here trying to pull him back home, trying to force him into doing something he didn't want to do. So I'm feeling that anxiety and that stress and that fear from him, and it's real. And I'm like, oh my God, this, all three experiences are as if I'm really there feeling and living them. And at that point, I realized again, none of it was my fault. I didn't have control of any of this. And all I could do was I felt a sort of love and a sort of compassion and a forgiveness that I'd never felt before in my life. I saw why each person did what they had to do, and it helped me connect the dots to understand how everything in our life happens exactly the way it's supposed to happen, and why we don't see it for what it is at that moment, or maybe many years down the road, but everything happens exactly the way it has to. And it allowed me to see how everything happened at that moment for me to create who you see here today. And it was very healing, I wasn't the same person I was prior to, that 20-30 minutes before that meditation started. It was just like, it was amazing.
Oh, that's so interesting. It's really a thriller, your life story. Really a thriller. You've got my attention. So guys, if you are watching this video and you think, how is the relationship that you had with your father or with your mother, or that they had between them, maybe the problems that you have now in your own relationships, all the relationships that you are having now are like these ones that you have at home when you were a child. And when we are kids, we think that we are the belly button of the world, that everything happens around us and because of us. But it's not like this. All kids are a little bit narcissistic in this affair. We think that things happen because of us. But you are not to be blamed if your father and mother got divorced. You are not to be blamed if they couldn't give you the love that you wanted the way you wanted to, because they were also people with their own limits. They are here struggling with their own beliefs and dreams, and sometimes they are doing the best that they can with what they have, and you feel that this best is not enough for you. You want more. You want more love, or you want to be loved in another way that they couldn't do.
Accepting ourselves, finally taking the responsibility for who we are and how we've been programmed and how we think our past is, right? All of this happened. I'm an entirely new person. I've found this new sense of compassion, forgiveness, and love. And I feel so amazing, right? The event ends. And a couple days after the event ends is when the miracle actually happens for me. And I knew I needed to call my mom and share with her this experience, this healing I just had. I didn't have the courage to do it yet. So it took me a couple days, and finally I built it up, and it's like, all right, I'm sitting down and I'm doing this. It's going to be hard, but I'm doing it. And
you have to digest first what happened.
Right. I didn't know exactly how and
settle down.
what. Yeah, I didn't know how and what I wanted to say to her. I knew what within me, I knew what to say, but in my mind, I'm like, all right, I need to really understand what just happened. So I give her a call, and I start off by telling her how much I love her and how much I appreciate everything she had done in my life. I told her there was nothing she did wrong. Everything was perfect the way it had to be, And I'm like, I love you. I forgive you for anything you think you did wrong. It starts off like that for a few minutes, and she's crying like, thank you. Oh, and says, I wish I would have been harder on you at times. And I'm like, Mom, I was very fragile, Hell, I tried killing myself multiple times. I'm like, I was very fragile. I said, I probably would have broken if you had pushed me any harder than you did. I said, everything you did was perfect and exactly the way it had to be. I also forgave myself for the lies I've been telling myself, for the past I've made myself believe was real that actually wasn't. And I told her I also forgave Robert, my biological father. I said, I went back and I saw him, I did this, and I forgave him for why he left. I understood it all now. And I was good with it. And that's when she stopped and said, Joey, there's something I have to tell you. I've been keeping a secret for 41 years. Granted, I'm 42 now. So she's like, I've been keeping a secret for 41 years, and there's only 3 people in the world that know of it. My biological father, my stepfather, and then my uncle, John, who passed away a year before this. And she had vowed that all of them would take it to their grave with them. I'm like, okay, what do you have to tell me? Yeah, go on. Yeah.
Wow.
And it was at that moment she goes, Joey, Robert is not your father. Like, what? Did I hear that correct? Now, after everything I'd just gone through the few days earlier, it wasn't affecting me. Like, I wasn't like, what do you mean? I was just like, okay, this is interesting. Go on.
You've
I'm
got
gonna
my
hear this.
attention.
Exactly. I'm like, go on. I'm kind of smiling, like, where's this headed? She wanted a baby, wanted a child so badly, but Robert, he couldn't have children. She was desperately looking anywhere she could, right? She went as far, she said, as contacting the Colombian embassy to see about adopting a Colombian orphan child baby. And I stopped her. I'm like, wait a minute. Is that why I get so dark and tan in the summertime and I'm the only one in my family with bright blue eyes? Are you telling me I'm half Colombian? And she's like, she's still crying. No, you're not half Colombian. And I'm like, dang it. That for that just instant there, it shattered my dream that I was a orphan child of a Colombian drug lord. I'm like, dang it.
Oh.
I know, right? So she goes on to tell me, well, she went through everything she could possibly figure out on having a baby. And turns out the hospital she worked at was actually doing an experimental procedure back in 1978 called in vitro fertilization. And I'm listening like, what?
Okay, one of the first babies.
Robert and me went in and we signed all of the confidentiality paperwork. Everything was set up, ready to go. And she said, your real father was actually a med student at the hospital who later became a doctor at the hospital. And I'm just sitting there, mind blown, like, wait a minute.
I'm
You're
speechless.
telling me my entire life I've been I had blamed myself for this guy leaving, at my birth, when in all actuality, he was just married. He was just the first guy that was married to you before I was born. And then he left. He had zero to do with who I was. Yet I blamed my entire life's failures on this abandonment from him. And it turns out I don't have the DNA of an alcoholic, womanizing guy that abandoned his family. I have the DNA of a doctor in me. And just instantly.
Oh my God.
Instantly, it's like, boom, my entire past rewrote itself, including my DNA. I now have the genes of a wise healer and a doctor, and my children now have the genes and the DNA of a doctor. Their grandfather is a doctor. So when what I found was through using compassion, forgiveness, and love, I was able to go back and heal my past, actually rewrite my own story of my past. And then in turn, it was so powerful with what I did, it caused the actual events in my life to rewrite themselves. If I hadn't healed, if I hadn't done all that, my mom never would have revealed to me. She would have taken that to her grave with her, and I would have gone on living, at least with the belief that this guy was still my father. Whether it affected me anymore or not didn't matter, but I still would have had this belief that he was my father. And because I went through all the work and I healed myself with that, I was able to unlock a reality that didn't exist just a couple days before. It was like instantaneous poof. I rewrote my reality, my DNA, the DNA of my children. And the best part of all of it is, if that wasn't awesome enough, the best part of all of it was I got to release my mom from 41 years
Of
of
keeping
that
a
burden
secret.
of keeping a secret that she wanted to tell me so badly, but she was just afraid that I wasn't strong enough to handle it. So she had just locked it up inside and threw away the key. And now it was like, you're free, Mom. You no longer have to live that lie. Be your true self now. And it was just an awesome,
It
awesome
is an
experience.
amazing story, but what really triggers all the difference is the fact that you wanted to change, you wanted to improve, you took action, an inspired action to go to Tony Robbins. And once you were there, you did the good, hard work. And once you did that, that triggered all the difference. You make a quantum jumping into a parallel reality where
Right.
you were a completely different person.
Absolutely. I mean, that's 100%, I think, the kind of the principles of what I just did. I've gotten over the last few years of my evolution and my diving into all of how all of this works, reality creation works. It's the idea that there's an infinite possibility of our realities. It just depends on which frequency we want to resonate on as to where we go on that timeline per se, and which reality we want to jump into. And anybody can do it. We have this gift. This was the biggest gift we've ever been given in our lives, is that gift, that the opportunity of free will and the choice to use that free will to create. We create every second of every day. Now we're either creating from our conscious mind, which is maybe 5-10% of the time, or our subconscious mind, which is the other 90-95% that is always creating from our versions of our past. So
over and over again, the same
right,
situations, attracting the same situations over and over again until we learn how to make it different. That's true. I
correct.
think we are here on Earth, all this generation that of incarnated people, incarnated souls that are here. We are here now learning how to be co-creators, how to choose the best reality we want to live, we want to tune in, we want to jump into.
Precise. I agree completely on that. It is, some say we're in the third density right now, which is understanding the polarity of negative, positive, right, wrong, good, bad. And we're here to learn that, when in actuality, we're already in the fourth density, which is learning how to control the gifts that we've been given. We already know right and wrong. That's what all of the past lives have taught us, is how to decipher the two, right? Now it's about implementing it. And I think it's a very slow process of releasing this gift back to us, because if God just, the creator just said, poof, you have the ability to create whatever reality you want, ready, set, go, I personally believe the world would end in literally 3 minutes. I mean, it would just be poof, like everybody's subconscious thoughts. We'd have an alien attack coming down. We'd have plagues, we'd have floods, volcano. I mean, it would just be everything we've been programmed to believe through movies, through whatever it is, through the media. It's subconsciously programmed this fear into us. And now we're having to rewrite that story. We're having to consciously think about our thoughts, because our thoughts create the reality we live in. So if that, like I said, if that power was given to us, just boom, you have that power. Yeah, I think humanity on a whole is not even close to being able to be responsible enough with that sort of power. I think the ones like you and I and the many millions of us out there in the world that are slowly awakening to this, we're doing the tough work. We're doing the hard work, the blood, sweat, and tears that it takes to heal and understand the power we have and the compassion that we have to have in using that power. Because if we don't, we're going to hurt a lot of people. A lot of innocent souls can get hurt with the reality we create. So it comes from that we can only create for service to others mentality. Like if we're creating in a selfish manner, like a lot of people do right now, they're seeing the repercussions of that selfish creation. And it doesn't always happen. It continues, I think, to come from the subconscious mind when you're trying to selfishly create. But when you're trying to consciously create reality, it has to come from a service to others. A what's in it for the whole? What's in it for other people than me?
You want to get to know somebody, give them power. You will see what they will do with the power. The power doesn't make anybody an angel or an asshole, but puts a light in who they really are. Because when they have power, everything will come to surface, and who they really are, it's going to be obvious.
Right. What are their guiding principles? What are their values? When you've got power, it allows you to extend and use those values. If I have positive values and I have power, it's going to show because I'm going to promote
use them for
values.
The good.
Right. And if I have negative values, greed, judgment, shame, things like that, that's what I'm going to project out into the world. So you're absolutely right. And it all starts in our minds with our imagination is kind of what I teach people.
People talk a lot about addiction, but they talk about addiction to cigarettes or to alcohol or to drugs. But there are other sorts of addictions that we have to get ourselves free from, like criticism, like complaining. Oh, there's people who love to complain. You cannot ask, how are you? They come with a list of complaints, or they have always a finger to point at other people's mistakes. That is also an addiction. Free yourself from that. We are here to learn unconditional love. Live and let live. Be the best version of yourself. Mind your own business. Don't mind how people are.
It's the addiction of self, I think, sums it up best. We can be addicted to alcohol, drugs, sex, whatever, television, but that's just the result. The underlying issue is the addiction to ourselves, our own self-importance, our own ego, so to say. The ego creates the judgment, the ego creates the shame, the guilt, the anger, the hate. It all comes from that scared little child inside of us that thinks that's trying to protect itself because it doesn't want to have to experience the pain of the past. So it's like, nope, I'm good. I'm just going to judge. I'm going to hate. I'm going to be angry because it's more comfortable that way.
This person that is there judging, that is there pointing the finger, that's criticizing, that's complaining, they want to use the law of attraction. They imagine, and it's not going to happen because this is the old school of attraction. Now we are talking about law of vibration. You have to really embody that good on you in order to attract good. If you want something good in your life and you are not radiating goodness, blissful, gratefulness, these positive vibrations, you are not even a match for that of what you want to attract.
Oh, yeah. You have to align with it 100%. And I love what you said there. I hadn't ever heard it put that way. Law of attraction, 100%. It's probably the third density type. You get what you get when where your energy goes, your focus goes, your energy flows. So it's like, yeah, that law of attraction, that makes sense. But the law of vibration, I love it because that's how we do this. It's all about that resonating, that harmonizing and aligning. Have you read the book Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill?
No,
Oh my
that's on
gosh,
my list now.
you have got to. I will actually I'll share it in the comments. If you want to put it in the uh description box, I've got a gift for you and all of your audience, your listeners, and it's a link that'll give you access to the top seven books on creating your reality that I compiled. And they're all free links to listen to them completely free online. But I compiled them all, described them all, and then you can just click one after another. And Outwitting the Devil is the number one. Like, you got to start here because it gives you such an in-depth deep dive into how the human mind works versus positive, negative, right, wrong, manipulation versus freedom. And I've listened to it at least 6-7 times. It's
awesome.
awesome.
Guys, you're going to find the link in the description below. By the way, you also are going to find the link to a video that Joey did, an interview with me, and you can have access to his channel.
Outwitting the Devil, in that book one of the books on my list that I compiled. And in there, Napoleon Hill talks about drifting, the concept of drifting. And it just resonated so much with me. And it's like, I always think of it as if we're on a straight line, if our path in life, our purpose is a straight line up, every choice we make in life either keeps you in alignment or it takes you off course, which he calls drifting. So it's like, if you just make one or two bad choices, then you drift a little bit. But if you make another one that's not in alignment, you drift a little bit further and a little bit further. And before you know it, 10 years down the road, you're, so far from your alignment, it's almost impossible. It's never impossible to get back there. But when you're thinking in terms of frequency, it's like you want to resonate here and you're way over here, and people get frustrated because they can't close that gap so fast. It's like, why isn't it happening now? It's like, because you've made so many choices that have caused you to drift so far in this direction. You're going to have to do the hard work to slowly bring you back into alignment. And it's just I think that's a big thing that the book talks about, is just that idea of drifting. And we each have that choice. And I think it plays a lot into why people get so disappointed that I'm imagining I'm doing this, but nothing's happening. I'm frustrated. I'm giving up on it. No, you failed.
Sometimes took 50 years for them to become who they are. They have to unlearn everything to learn again, and to be the best versions and to resonate with their life's purpose. But it's doable. All there is the present moment. The past is over, so it's got no control over you. And now, if you decide at this present moment that you want to change, that you want to write another story. Oh, going back to my question, Joey, how do people rewrite their DNA without having to change their father or their mother? How do they do that?
From what I experienced in it, it involves 3 components, 4 really. First is you have to be able to use your imagination. You have to be able to consciously see and know and believe in what it is you want. You need to be able to see, feel, hear, taste, smell it. That vision needs to be so clear in your mind that it's as if it's real. So that's the first aspect of kind of living as if. Then the second part is incorporating those emotions and healing ourselves from the past. So we have to focus on the 3 principles of compassion, forgiveness, and love. And it's not yes, it's about forgiving the people in your past that have perceived to have done wrong to you, but it's really about having compassion, forgiveness, and love for yourself. It's about truly going back, healing, and understanding that you are the only one that actually has to heal. There's nobody else out there. There's only you and what you believe and perceive. So it's like you have to go back and separate the two and heal yourself, heal the inner child. And more or less, you have to have a death of your past version of you. Whoever you believed you were, it has to end, and you have to say goodbye. You have to love it for everything it's done. You have to appreciate everything that your past life up until this moment has been, because it's made you this and it's shown you and taught you all of this. But you have to forgive it. You have to bury it, let it go. It's not gone. It's just not in control anymore. It no longer has the wheel. You're saying to your higher self, I got this. I
I
don't
take
need,
control of my own life from now on.
right,
I rewrite my story.
right. I don't need the help anymore. I'm taking the wheel. You trust me. I've got this. And once you can finally confirm and take that power back for yourself, everything starts to change. Your higher self says, okay, I trust you. I'm going to give you a little bit of power. I'm going to give you a little bit. Let's see what you do with it. And then at that point, it's up to us to start choosing the right, making the right choices. If we revert back to judgment, fear, hate, shame, all of those past life experiences, then that power gets ripped away. It's like, okay, nope, you're still not ready. So it's like we have to go back. We have to heal. We have to put the old self to death in order to rebirth the new awakened soul that's within us. So
Awesome.
that would be my best suggestion on how it's done.
Awesome suggestions, awesome steps. By the way, I made another video how to rewrite your story and be a new person now at this present moment. And you can find this video here in the description below.
Nice.
Joey, I absolutely loved the interview. It was delightful to have you here in my channel. I'm so grateful that you shared your story. It's so inspiring. I really appreciate the fact that you are here. And Joey, I have nothing but good words to you. I wish you the best. I know you have a brilliant future ahead in your speeches, in your TED Talk. Oh, Joey, by the way, is going to be on TED Talk. I hope in the future I can put his TED Talk here in the description below also.
It's called Tag Talk. It's not TED, it's a tag. It's slight difference, but same concept. I don't want your viewers to get confused looking up TED Talks, like, where is he?
Tag Talk.
Yeah, Tag Talk. It's the same concept, but it's about life experiences and how people have grown and evolved to beat their challenges, to overcome their struggles in life.
Okay, so I'm going to record it again.
Okay.
And Joey, I hope to put your TED Talk here in the description below as soon as it's released, so you can inspire more people with your life story. Do you have any final suggestions or advice to give to my audience?
Yeah, absolutely. I thank you so much, Barbara. This has been so much fun. I love being able to come on and just talk about my journey, but really talk about all the things, all the useful steps that we each have that we can be taking to create our own reality, because that's what it's all about. We have this gift, we have this power we've been blessed with that we're just rediscovering, and that power is our wonderful imagination and the ability to create whatever reality we want. We can rewrite our past. We can design the future we want, and we can live in the current moment of our choosing. And it starts with our wonderful, beautiful imagination. So thank you so much again for having me on, and we will talk soon.
We will talk soon. Absolutely inspiring. Thank you so much. Namaste.
Namaste. See you later. Bye.